But I think even, when our children were 5 or 6 years old, I didn't go off and say, get on your computer and assign yourself the questions, but I would sit there and walk them through it and let them do it while I was there and kind of take ownership over choosing things and stuff like that. So there's a way that you can kind of be with them while they're also being the teacher and giving them a little more power over their experience.
It sounds like your daughter's progressing really quickly through the content in the game. What grade level is she currently working on within Prodigy? Fourth to eighth. Holy moly. She is really making a lot of progress.
And she's only 6, so this is
That's
pretty.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got quite the learner on your hands there, Kara.
Wonderful. Anything else on your mind? And maybe some people who are having a little bit of trouble with getting their kids motivated to start math. I don't know if I really emphasize this enough, but there is a big difference between math as a concept and taking a math test at school. And a lot of kids have started to associate the idea of taking a math test as the same as understanding the beautiful world of math and having the ability to do logic and count and things like that. And I think, there's a Maria Montessori who was a big mover and shaper in education. When she started teaching, she did something really radical, which is when she would say, what's 2 plus 2? For a child to start counting that on their fingers was seen as a terrible thing for them to do. And Maria Montessori saw this as completely natural. And I think it's such a great example of how we have these kind of standardized techniques that we use to teach math that many of us don't know because we didn't learn the same techniques when we were in school. And some of the natural ways that a child might learn that could be different, especially for a child who has ADHD or maybe dyscalculia and needs something more multisensory, counting on their fingers can be such a great thing. And so the more you can kind of separate math test taking to actually learning math, the better. Because these techniques are very complicated and hard to master. When I was subbing in the New York City schools, I remember I went into a second grade classroom and I just had no idea what was going on with their homework. They were learning long division, but it was just so different from the way that I learned long division that I just had no idea how to teach it. And so I just said, does any second grader in this room understand this? And then I just had her go around and explain it to the other kids, student as teacher.
There's a question around how long a day would you suggest is helpful? The way that I've seen others structure their math lesson and incorporate Prodigy as well is um, except for words and decide on pets. Yes, they can spend some time on that. But for math lessons specifically, I think 40 minutes a day would be great. I've heard of people doing a quick, like 5-minute warm up, bit of a refresher on what you learned yesterday, a kind of ability to introduce content and do a mini lesson, and then provide time for practice and assessment on Prodigy. A lot of people also use the Prodigy assignment feature as a exit ticket. So specifically assigning an assignment on what your lesson was that day allows you to see how well have they absorbed that content and have they now mastered that content. So if you have, 10 questions to that assignment, they get 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. Okay, great. They've got it. You can move on. If not, and if they're still struggling, that might suggest that you need to spend some more time on it the following day as well before you move on to the next thing within the curriculum.
And that's so dependent on your own child. I think it's really important that you look at their rhythm. It could be 10 minutes, it could be 20 minutes.